Schools are closed and hospitals are full due to a new epidemic in China. Wall Street Journal, China's top banker detained by anti-corruption agency. 2 sessions approach, Beijing strengthens control, the police treat people as enemies. China has lost more than 41 million eligible workers since the pandemic began. Massive fire breaks out at an under-construction skyscraper in Hong Kong, probes underway.
After the Chinese Communist regime announced that the wave of COVID infections was in its final stage, a new viral outbreak seems to be filling the country's hospitals again. This is alarming the population, which is still on the defensive after experiencing an epidemic that took the lives of millions of people. The Beijing Municipal Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported that the intensity of seasonal influenza epidemics showed a clear upward trend, with the influenza A virus accounting for 99% of the infections. Zhang Daitao, director of the Institute of Infectious Disease Control in Beijing, said that the number of influenza-like cases increased last week by 78% compared to the same period in 2019. He then added that this year's situation is more special, attributing the overall increase to the start of school activities. The media reports that several schools have suspended classes due to cases of infectious diseases among their students. In Zhejiang, Ningbo, Jinhua, and other places, they were apparently caused by influenza or influenza A. The same was reported in Beijing and Shanghai, where many students presented with fever and flu-like symptoms. A doctor from the Shanghai Loom Hospital posted on Weibo that influenza A and B viruses can cause pneumonia or so-called white lung, resulting in death in some cases. On March 1st, the Twitter user Nobita's Smile posted a video saying that at the Longyan campus of Tianjin Children's Hospital at 2 a.m., the facility was packed and people were still arriving for medical care, with some 2,000 people waiting. According to the video's author, he exhibited vomiting and diarrhea symptoms and had frequent high fevers. Authorities are at pains to report that this new wave of contagions is not due to COVID. The Tianwan District Education Department confirmed through a letter to parents that some classes have been suspended recently due to students' health problems, but that the suspension is due to influenza, not the new coronavirus. However, many internet users questioned the official version. Is there a possibility that this wave of contagions is nothing more than a continuation of the COVID epidemic? Given the growing distrust of the Chinese population to the announcements of the communist regime, such as the reports issued in which the number of deaths due to COVID was minimized. At the same time, hospitals collapsed, crematoriums worked non-stop, and bodies piled up in the morgues. The challenging testimonies are multiplying. One video, whose date and location have not been confirmed, shows a hospital waiting room crowded with more than 100 children lined up. The netizen who posted the video said, "Repeated fever for 4 days, coughing and high fever. Is it a new round of COVID?" The CCP has fallen into the Tacitus trap. Anything it says is no longer credible. The weight of public distrust will fall on a regime whose actions led it down an uncertain path.
Chinese noted banker Fan Bao, who abruptly disappeared last month, has been detained by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, concerning a corruption investigation into a former senior executive at the investment bank China Renaissance he founded. According to the Wall Street Journal, China's anti-graft investigators detained Fan Bao in February concerning a case involving China Renaissance's former president, Kong Lin. China Renaissance announced on February 16th that it could not contact Bao Fan. The journal reported that Bao Fan is being kept under a particular type of detention known as liuji, or retention in custody. Under the liuji system, an individual may be held for as long as 6 months without access to a lawyer. It remains unclear whether Bao Fan will formally face any charge or arrest. Sources told the journal that before Bao's detention, the CCP had questioned him several times over months about the investigation of Kong Lin. For example, they wanted to know about a possible exchange of favors involving a loan Kong Lin facilitated for China Renaissance before he joined the company. However, Bao did not give them all the details they wanted. China Renaissance said in an exchange filing on February 16th that its missing founder has been assisting in a CCP investigation. According to Reuters, there have been recent incidents in China where prominent executives have vanished without explanation. These cases happened during Chinese leader Xi Jinping's sweeping anti-corruption campaign. Some of the missing reappear just as suddenly as they disappeared. Sources told the Financial Times that the CEO of China Renaissance was rearranging the private investment firm in the final months of 2022, shortly before his disappearance. Bao Fan's disappearance sent shares of the company to a record low and raised concerns about key man risk for investors. China Renaissance's stock price plummeted 28% after the firm confirmed it could not reach him. According to Chinese media, the National People's Congress and the annual Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, referred to as two annual sessions, will be held on March 4th and 5th. The authorities want to do the so-called social stability. The containment and suppression of people, especially petitioners, have been intensified since February. On March 1st, human rights activist Zhou Chunhong called The Sound of Hope in Hebei. She told the reporter that she and her 13-year-old son had been escorted back home to Pingchuan County, Chengdu City, Hebei Province. At midnight on January 6th last year, when Zhao Chunhong was staying in a Beijing hotel to see a doctor, the Beijing police tricked her into opening her room door and forced her to go home. She became agitated and her condition worsened, leading to a hysterectomy. She said, "Now the government seems crazy. From the moment I got on the bus, the police came to see me directly. When I arrived in Beijing, the train guard handed me over to the Beijing police. They forced me to leave. Yesterday, we had a bad day, making my child seem agitated. He even cried and muttered." Seeing her son's unusual behavior after breaking down, Zhou Chunghun was heartbroken. However, the call was suddenly called off. According to a Civil Rights and Livelihood Watch report, Zhou Chunghong defended her rights because major shareholders embezzled the minerals she invested in. She went to Beijing countless times but could not find a solution. Local leaders always repudiated her. They told her to wait at home every time she went to Beijing. And contrary to their promise, she still needs to raise $5 million in compensation. On the eve of this year's two sessions, the Beijing government continued to increase stability. Even if the petitioners were forced to return to their localities, their freedom would continue to be limited. Shanghai petitioner Chen Guoying has been under house arrest in a hotel for nearly a month. On March 1st, Chen Guoying told a reporter, "We were walking on a Beijing street when we were stopped by the police and handed over to the Shanghai office in Beijing. On February 3rd, they put me in a hotel for detention. During the two annual sessions, they treated us as enemies. This time is different from the last time. They have not informed me of the confinement lifting time." She continued, "They are evildoers. They hold meetings having nothing to do with us. We are protecting our rights. You do not allow us to go to Beijing or to complaint departments during your meetings. If so, you can lose all petition departments. Here, you open the door and lock us in. You sure can do anything." Chen Guoying appealed because many unknown people inexplicably occupied her house. She then went to complain after not receiving compensation since the house was demolished. The authorities knew she was right but refused to settle with her. Every year during the CCP's two annual sessions, Beijing is always in a state of tension, as if facing a great enemy, and the level of instability is increasing. On February 28th, the authorities informed successfully registered journalists that they must arrive at the hotel for quarantine at 8 p.m. the day before the event. They also must truthfully report their close contact with COVID-19 cases, otherwise they will be responsible for any consequences. On February 27th, all goods entering Beijing had to undergo a second-time security check before delivery. On February 22nd, the Beijing Public Security Bureau issued a notice stating that from March 1st to March 14th, the use of drones and balloons in Beijing administrative areas is prohibited.
In just 3 years since the pandemic began, China lost a vast working-age population, comparable to Germany's workforce. According to the China National Bureau of Statistics, the country employed about 733.5 million Chinese people last year, a more than 41 million reduction compared to 2019, the year the coronavirus kicked in. Meanwhile, Germany recorded 44 million working-age people in 2021, per the World Bank. Data from the World Economic Forum showed that the number of people aged 16 to 59 in the country had dropped steadily since 2012. Over the last 3 years, that figure has decreased by 38 million to 857.6 million, a substantially faster rate of decline than the years before. Bloomberg said that the number partially reflects the pandemic's toll on the Chinese economy, with stringent restrictions hampering businesses and labor demands. Last April, during the height of the Shanghai lockdown, the BBC reported that China's unemployment rate climbed to 6.1%, a record since the 6.2% peak seen in February 2020. But as the Asian country reopens, Larry Hu, China economist at Macquarie Securities, expected more people to return to work. He said, "It will remain on the structural downtrend due to the aging population. Another factor that comes into play is the country's rapidly aging population. The baby boom generation in the country, born in the 1960s, is expected to exit the working age group within this decade. The United Nations projected last July that the 15 to 64 age community in China would be less than 400 million in 2100. Its declining population has undesirable implications for the economy. As costs for caring for the aged increase, consumer spending will hit the ceiling, and workers will become more expensive. Once imposing a strict one-child policy, Chinese officials recently have frantically rolled out measures to boost fertility rates. On February 21st, Zhejiang Daily reported that Hangzhou City was promising 20,000 yuan, or $2,900, as a one-off subsidy for couples with a third child this year. Beijing has also proposed to delay the legal retirement ages by 2025. But as Bloomberg noted, that suggestion was hit with online backlash. The publication quoted a Weibo user as saying, "Don't think delaying retirement age is just to make you work a few more years, because you may not be able to find any work even before 65, but you'll only be able to get your pension then."
A massive fire broke out overnight at a construction site in the heart of Hong Kong's popular shopping district. Authorities in Hong Kong were investigating the cause of the massive fire. According to AFP, officials said the fire broke out at 11:11 p.m. on March 2nd in the heart of Tsim Sha Tsui. The place is well known for its busy shopping and tourist district on the city's harbor front. Burning debris floated in the air, and the building's multiple floors, including the scaffolding, were on fire. The fire was then largely put out at 8:30 a.m. on Friday, March 3rd. 3 teams equipped with breathing apparatuses and 2 jets were dispatched to the scene of the former Mariners Club fire. The authorities stated that the main Nathan Road thoroughfare in the neighborhood was shut down, causing traffic problems. The fire department stated that 2 people suffered minor injuries and no casualties have been reported. According to the authorities, 170 residents of nearby apartment buildings were moved to a safe distance as sparks and embers fell to the ground. Flames were first noticed near the scaffolding at the top of the building. The South China Morning Post reported that by 1:46 a.m. on Friday, the incident was upgraded to a number 4 alarm fire on a 1 to 5 scale of seriousness. Kowloon's Tsim Sha Tsui is a popular tourist and shopping district known for its skyscrapers and spectacular Victoria Harbor view.